And welcome back to SA Sports Show. Kimmy, Sporting Royalties, our next guest. I'm honoured. Just want to introduce Vicki Cardwell. Welcome to the show. And also James Roger, the SA Development Manager. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Thanks, Thanks, Kim.
I looked at your resume. It's just fantastic. I mean, 8 Australian championships, which is outstanding. Hall of Fame, South Australia, Australian Hall of Fame. Your sporting in squash was just outstanding. Now you're coaching. How's that going?
Wonderfully.
Yeah.
I'm actually the newly appointed development officer in the Barossa.
Yep.
And has its challenges simply because squash has taken a backseat in terms of visibility and facilities to actually participate in the sport. So the awareness of squash in the Barossa has waned a bit. However, the Barossa has one of the finest facilities in the world. It's got world-class facilities, 6 singles courts, which convert into 4 doubles courts. An amazing facility, but unfortunately, the awareness of the sport has waned a bit, and what we need is just to increase the awareness, and that's my objective for this year, is just letting people know that squash is alive and well. The intention, and James will give you a little bit more information about this, is that we're going to build more facilities, which is going to help.
James, how have you found it? I mean, look, when I was growing up, I went to school at St Michael's, just a couple of years below Chris Titmar. I actually thought squash was just a South Australian sport. I thought the British Open was just a suburb down the road because you're in it and Chris Titmar's in it and dominating this sport. It was all over South Australia. It has weaned away over the years, but the direction's it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, look, the perception of the game definitely has weaned away. And it's mainly come from losing a few key centres back when housing prices and land prices came up in sort of the mid-90s. But the actual participation rates of the game is similar to what it used to be when you heard about it with these kind of names. And we've got a rich history in South Australia and Australia for producing good players and a lot of participation. The change has been that the players want to play when they want to play with who they want to play. So whereas we used to have X amount of pennant teams playing every week, that has reduced, but the social participation has stayed the same. That's harder to measure, and you don't hear about it as much because it's not as competitive, but the people are still going in and out of the centres. So yeah, the perception has changed.
So you can grow that culture again. A young child, 14, 15, right, I know I can go to that particular club and I can start my career there and start playing pennants. Because that's probably one thing that I reckon probably has lacked in squash of, we all play it, we all love it. But if you get to a stage, how do I go about it?
Yeah, and that's really, Squash SA has got a real focus on harnessing what we do have, the social players and those people bringing their kids down to the courts on the weekends. So Squash SA spent a lot of time and money working out the best kind of way to put club development officers into key centres and key regions to work with the club or the centre that's there, depending on how that place is run, to harness that foot traffic that's coming through the courts, to actually provide them and educate them on the pathway. Squash SA is lucky to be in a position where we can actually help out with providing that pathway and assistance and travel interstate and good coaches like Vicki. So really got to educate the people who are bringing their kids into the centres. There is a pathway. This is what it's about and this is how you go about it. And here's the benefits of playing squash, not just the health benefits, but it's a very healthy lifestyle that all the juniors we've put through in the last 10, 15 years are all, A-grade individuals now from that club atmosphere and the recognition of the sport and how to compete in a small area against an opponent of a similar standard. It's really character building, we feel. So we really try and harness that, put key people like Vicki into our key centres.
The life skills are invaluable. Yeah,
Vicki, I am pretty honoured to be next to you with your resume like it is. I was actually a gun footballer, and my resume reads very similar. But if I chose squash, I'm sure I would have been right up there as well. But hearing you guys just talk about the development, how do you get the kids, and do you find it difficult? Because obviously, I suppose the biggest sport in Australia for you guys is AFL. That's even taken over netball and everything else. How do you get the kids? Because I have young kids, And you know what? I've never heard squash mentioned to them at all through the system.
Kim, it's interesting that you mentioned that. One of the young fellows that I've had a lot to do with in Victoria lamented that to me on one occasion, said, nobody in my class knows what squash is. And yeah, it's very important. That's what I said before about the awareness. It's very difficult to increase participation numbers if people are actually unaware, as you've said, Kim. People don't know about it, and certainly they don't know about the quality of the facilities that are available to them. So it's really, my approach has been, when I'm speaking to people, and that's what I'm doing a lot of at the moment, is just speaking about what you've got in the Barossa, what we've got here, and it's there on your doorstep, but highlighting the fact that it's the greatest cross trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day,
it's tough work, Vicki. I love playing it, and it's tough work. It's a good sweat up as well.
Bobby Scoulton, Teddy Whitten used to play in a VFL league. They used to have a league of squash. It's a great cross trainer. Forbes magazine has rated it the world's healthiest sport. The benefits are unlimited, but the cross training effect. So when I'm talking to a cricketer or a footballer or a netballer, I'm talking about the benefits to their sport that squash brings to them. So
it just ticks all the boxes, doesn't it?
The last thing I want is them feeling that I'm taking them away from the sport that they love. What I'm trying to get the message through is that this is going to enhance what you love to do. And hopefully they will fall in love with the sport that I'm passionate about. I mean, I was a tennis player and a netballer. And I was a really good tennis player and a netballer. I'm telling you.
You'd have been a good Aussie Rules player as well, Vicki.
Oh, mate, you have a word with the Williams brothers. They remember the tackles and the...
Tell me about the British Open. I mean, obviously, when I was growing up, that was the pinnacle. What was it like walking out on that court, and winning?
Well, a lot of changes occurred within the 4 British Opens that the 4 consecutive British Opens that I won.
Big crowds, huge amount of media. You won 4 of them.
Yeah.
It's equivalent to Wimbledon, isn't it, really,
yes,
at the end of the day?
Exactly. Played on all glass court, played on closing court, played in, just glass back court. So the facility changed, the court changed, the racket. I won my British Opens with a small-headed racket. But yes, just the place that it has in their sporting history. It was just wonderful. And I've got to tell you, Greg, the interesting thing is that I didn't actually appreciate how close I was until I was actually on the doorstep. I found myself in the final of the British Open and I said, wow, how did this happen? Because all I wanted to do was be better. I actually didn't have that. I mean, everybody talks about their dreams and their goals now. I actually never had that ambition to be world number 1. I actually was thinking, I just want to be a better squash player. I want to be better. The next time I went out on the court, I just wanted to be better.
You're pretty tough.
I'm told. I'm told that.
Any rivalry with any one individual? Was it?
Several, but probably, Rhonda Thorne, Rhonda Chaplin, Rhonda Thorne, she was better known as from Queensland, but Lisa Opie from England. She eventually won a British Open when I left the game, left the international game. Martine Lemoynier eventually won a world championship. Martine was 5'10", which is incredibly tall in those days for a squash player, and a big left-hander. And we believed that she didn't know what she was doing with the racket. So what hope did we have? I had lots of serious opponents. Who actually managed to, win major titles when I decided I wanted to start
Give them to them.
Well, I think you're right though, Roger. It's just such a great sport. You just got to give it a try. It's just a wonderful sport. So, for all the kids out there that are looking to improve the sport they're doing or trying something new that's such a brilliant sport, it's squash.
We think that the way it crosses over and the hand-eye coordination is great for anything.
Roger, thank you very much for coming in.
James.
Sorry, James.
All the time.
It's okay, Jack.
Vicki, thank you so much. Just wonderful. And just before we go, British Open 4 years in a row, world champion 1983, 8 times Australian Open champion, 3 times Australian Team Master, South Australian Hall of Fame, Australian Hall of Fame. You've done it all.
And one more though, and coached Chris Dittmar, who was the Hall of Fame and
So he just ticks all the
Did
boxes.
he ever get number one though, James? You can't beat him all the time.
He
He
was
did
number
got
one
World
for
War
one
One.
for I think it was 1 month. But
Yeah, it was.
arguably, according to most people on the planet, Chris was the greatest player never to have won a British Open or World
Okay,
Open.
yeah.
And quite frankly, the reason why I believe he didn't win the World Open is because he gave too much to squash and to the people who were interested in it. And when it was here in Adelaide, the one who was supposed to, who was all over it, he just gave himself, selflessly, You've got to be focused. You've got to be single-minded, and he was just a bit too generous with his time. I think,
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you both for so much for coming in. Kim, we're pretty lucky. That was wonderful.
Special.
So, insight to Vicki, and also, let's get squash growing again in South Australia.
Yes.
More to come. So stay tuned.